one memory that we came up with, actually there's quite a few, but one of the memories that we have is that after we scored those 4 goals and during the timeout, you immediately said to us, "We are tied. We are tied. We are not ahead by 4 goals. We are tied." And we're like, okay, but yay, we're 4-0. Some other memories we had. Yes, tell me.
So another big memory we had was after we won Mr. Maine. Big deal. We were all like, "We're number 1!" And coach was like, "You are not number 1. You are not number 1 until you win states." So we're wrong. We are number 1.
I would first like to recognize Coach Martell. Mrs. Martell, Mr. Martell. She played an integral role in our development and that led to our success. So many years ago, many. And I put things on my phone. I'm trying to be, technology. Yeah, not me. But so please bear with me. We had a record of 17 wins and 1 loss in '92. We did lose to Dexter regular season. We don't need to talk about that anymore. And during this season, we typically, you read in the paper, I did not have a chance to glance at all the articles, but your goal scorers will show up a lot. So-and-so scored so many goals, so many assists, and that's how you win games. In fact, after our state game, college coach, heard that we had won that game 5-4 in overtime. And her question to me was, "Okay, Dawn, how many goals do you need to score to win a game?" And I said, "One more than the other team." That was obvious, especially on that day. But we had this group of our scorers. They scored 47 regular season goals and 11 tournament goals for a total of 58. The defense, and I do believe that championships are won by a strong defense. As our forwards scored 47 goals, our defense gave up 8 regular season goals in those 14 games. They gave up 5 tournament goals for a total of 13 goals in 18 games in a season. And Tammy Draper played in goal, and she and her defense, because your goalkeeper leads that defense in the circle, they recorded 11 shutouts. The state championship game was wonderful. To get there, the team had to beat Booth Bay in the quarterfinals, which they did 3-0. I did coach at Booth Bay. I had to apologize to them because on the day they came to this game, it was cold. It was so cold. The wind sometimes could just howl on that field. And they came in their dark tops with white undershirts, white turtlenecks. And everyone should know the rule that if you're in the dark, you're wearing a dark top underneath. And I didn't wear it in white. We couldn't have that on the field. So I requested that they take those off. And I did apologize a couple of times to them. We went on to beat Winthrop in the semifinals 2-1. And then we beat Halldale on this field in overtime 1-0 for the East Maine Championship. Our state game was played at Mount Ararat High School against the Western Maine champ, who was Yarmouth. And between the 8-minute mark to the 18-minute mark of the first half, we scored 4 goals. In fact, one of the officials, our 2 officials were Flossie Smith and Gail Santier. Flossie was the lead official, and she came running by me, and she just looked and she goes, "Your team's fast." And I said, "Yes, we are." Tammy McKinney was on that right outside and outside wing position. And people didn't think I'm sorry, Tammy, they didn't think you were that fast until you took off over and over and over again, and everyone commented on her speed. But there is a problem when you score 4 goals in 10 minutes in a championship game. It was the best example I've ever seen of the fight or flight response when you're under stress, because we know that adrenaline is released. So he scored that first goal. Oh yeah, new stress, good stress, and the girls jump. They're excited. And just a couple of minutes later, we score the second goal. They jump higher. They're so excited. The third goal comes 6 or 7 minutes later, and they're jumping higher. And then the fourth goal comes, and I've never seen these girls jump so high in their lives. And I thought, oh no, we're gonna crash. And we did. The next 10 minutes after timeout, and you have to remember, we're in a state championship game, and people get there because they're good. And Yarmouth came back and popped in 2 goals quickly. So we were up 4-2 at halftime. Yarmouth tied the game in the second half. We did not score any more goals in regulation. We used them up. Yarmouth comes back, they score. They actually put a 5th goal in, a 5th ball in the goal late in the second half, but the officials called it back because they happened to take out our goalkeeper in the process. The overtime in field hockey set the victory. We scored on a penalty corner on that game. I think it was between, the ball was hit out to, must have been hit out to Jessica, and then passed over to Daryl. She ended up in a cage. The goaltender is because Dave Gaw made you catch on his baseball team. And Dave told me that, hey, she can catch for baseball. And I thought, well, that's good to know, because you're trying to, in baseball, your catcher's blocking that ball, trying to knock it down. Don't let it get by. What do we want in field hockey? We want someone that can block that ball and not let it get by. But I think Greenville, we had an issue. And I actually do remember that. And I would like to take a minute to just say thank you for your honor this morning. That was humbling and an incredible honor. And I'm speechless at that point. So, thank you.
First, the end. Donna Jordan is going to introduce them. Come on up. She had asked me to tell some of the things I had done in the list of promotions and like the whole entire thing. But no, thank you. I have no idea who nominated me, but whoever did, I thank you for doing so, and thank you all for being here. My parents, my aunt, and my grandson. My grandparents always said, who knew Ralph and Hilda Hurston? They were always the first ones to the game, right up in school. It didn't matter where we went, everywhere we went, my grandparents were there before we even arrived for the JV game. They were sitting there waiting for the bus. So, there's lots of memories. Sports for me, it pretty much was my life. I remember playing the league, and I played with the boys. And I remember the boys trying to get me to kiss another boy on the bus when I was like 10. That was fun, because I was the only girl around. But it all started in 5th grade. We had a ball shooting contest. Picked up a basketball, and I got 4 out of 50, and I won. to shoot you this way, this way, whatever. And that felt like, this is me, this is what I'm supposed to do. So then comes 8th grade, and there was really no field hockey team at that time. What we did was, what Coach Jordan did was, she kind of had us come up a couple times to practice, and somehow I got thrown in the goal cage. I'm not really sure how, but I did. And that's pretty much where I stayed. High school arrived, and field hockey arrived, and Coach Jordan arrived. I had the privilege of playing 4 years of field hockey under her, a year of JV basketball under her, and I remember one time we were shooting over here, and she was rebounding for me, and I think I made maybe 20 baskets in a row, like just all around.
Which included 8 shutouts, and she had 4 goals that season as the team's penalty stroker. Scoring goals is surely very unusual, but a cool stat for a goalkeeper to earn. As a freshman varsity basketball player, Karen was the first one off the bench, but then started her next 3 years. Nobody really kept stats for female athletes or teams in the 70s and 80s, like you have heard others sharing tonight. Jamie's the stat guy for sure. But her Pirate team did make it to tournament play her freshman year in 1978. In softball, Karen was a 4-year starter as a catcher, and a cleanup hitter. UMaine actually wanted her to play softball for them, but she decided to go to Umbie so she could play both field hockey and basketball instead. During her senior year at PCHS, Karen received the Most Valuable Player Award in all 3 sports, and then was honored the highest recognition for an athlete, earning the 1982 PCHS Female Athlete of the Year Award. I got a statement from one of Karen's coaches, Donna Jordan, who coached Karen all 4 years in field hockey. She said Karen Hersey was an impact athlete when she first walked through the doors of PCHS. She was a fearless competitor, the field hockey goaltender, basketball point guard, and softball catcher, playing one of the most important positions on each team. Karen helped to raise the standards of success of girls athletics at PCHS. She was an integral part of the 1981 Eastern Maine Field Hockey Championship team, a leader of that team that set a standard for many teams to follow. Karen was the type of athlete every coach would want on one's team. A leader by example, and most importantly, she was kind to all she came in contact with, a characteristic needed, especially in today's world. Karen did end up playing sports at the University of Maine at Presque Isle, and yes, they did have field hockey, and she did play field hockey from 1982 to 1986. She was actually a 4-year starter, 3 years as a goalkeeper, and then as a right halfback her senior year. They only had 12 players that season, and 2 of them were goalkeepers. Since Karen was a better field player, she sacrificed her love of being a goalkeeper since 8th grade at GMS to do what best helped the team. Karen actually figured out that she really enjoyed playing on the field. While at Umbie, Karen actually played basketball for 2 years as well, but the field hockey and basketball seasons started to overlap, so it ended up being too hard for her to keep up with both, so she decided to just focus on field hockey her last 2 years. Besides being an athlete over the years, Karen had her hand in fostering athletics in many other ways too. She was a director of intramurals at Umbie her junior and senior year. And after graduation, she started an intramural program at Word of Life Bible Institute, which is still successfully running today. She didn't forget Guilford though. She came back to be an ed tech from 1988 until 1995. She also coached JV field hockey and basketball multiple years, varsity field hockey for 2 years, 8-team field hockey, 4 or 5 years, and 8-team softball for all 7 years. And she was the middle school athletic director from 1991 to 1995. She was actually one of the first, if not the first, female athletic directors in the state of Maine at the time. After my speech in 2022 about that year being the 50th year of the enactment of Title IX, which supports equal opportunities based on sex, it's an honor to be introducing Karen and getting the opportunity to share an article that I feel Joni Averill wrote best when she included this article in the Bangor Daily News on September 14, 1993. The article was titled, "Hersey Sees the Progress of Title IX." I contemplated whether I should read the whole article, but it really emphasizes what we are experiencing now, 31 years later, in our school district. The article reads like this. 2 years before the United States Congress passed Title IX of the Education Amendments in 1972, Karen Hersey entered kindergarten here in Guilford. Although she has since come to realize she benefited from that legislation, it was hardly uppermost in her mind when she set about to create a place for herself in areas other little girls did not attempt to enter. Her desire to compete in athletics would not be limited by what was available. She tried out for Little League. As the only girl, she played left bench a lot. But she did get to play, and she was not discouraged by the coach from continuing. There was no softball, so she played junior high baseball. Today, which means in 1983, no Averill writes, Karen Hersey is an athletic director at Guilford Middle School, which many of you know was on School Street by the fire station and is now Herrick's Garage, a venerable old facility that once served as her parents' high school. What one realizes in talking with this new generation of educator is that Title IX worked, and although progress is slow, life is different for the little girls who compete in Karen Hersey's shadow. Having written about Hersey since her playing days at the Scataway Community High School, where she starred in softball and field hockey, and then following her exploits at the University of Maine Press Battle, it is gratifying to find a person of her caliber in education. The hope was always there that many of the young women about whom I wrote would someday become part of the continuously evolving athletic programs in our schools and colleges. What is even more pleasing, though, is to discover the zeal, determination, and dedication such a person brings to her work. Although she was once unaware of her status as a member of the Title IX generation, she has come to embrace it as a middle school athletic director, teacher, and coach. But she knows each child needs a place to start, and that for her, it was athletics. She wants to help young girls and boys share that experience and the privilege of competition. When she first returned home, Hersey worked as an assistant to her former field hockey coach, Donna Jordan, which helped define Hersey's philosophy. At the middle school, she coached basketball and field hockey while overseeing several other programs. She dealt daily with the conflict of the intramural versus league approach, learning to focus on active competition within the county. The local middle school league philosophy is one she embraces, that everyone should have the opportunity to play. It is how skills are developed and where the learning begins. High schools without active middle school athletic programs suffer the strains of teaching basic skills when developed skills should be refined. Education has taken a lot of hits today, and athletic is at the top of many lists. Sounds familiar? People are apt to take programs and coaches for granted. As much as people think they know about their local athletics, when asked to describe them, they would most likely give a recitation on high school sports. People are apt not to think often how much time and attention middle school staffers give their students. Coaching one team until 4:30, then welcoming a second practice that lasts until 6 is not uncommon. For example, in Guilford. If today's new era educator has a concern, it may be that while community's focus is on what is happening to athletic programs at their high schools, the middle schools need their attention too. Here in Hersey loves her job.
Person out, you can throw them. Okay, so it worked that way. By Thursday, he says, I want to play baseball. I said, it worked. I said, those fish that throw him in. And he enjoyed that year, and I enjoyed coaching. This may be my last year of baseball, who knows? All depends on my drive, my passion, please. But, I've had the pleasure of working with some great coaches. Jamie Russell, probably one of the best. Not Dave Bell, but Brian Dodd. And I've got Coach his kids, Brady, Noah Kane, all good kids. Brady Ball. Couldn't ask for better kids. I got to work with Joe Gallant. You know, rest in peace, Joe. Other than Leah, I'd like to have you present my award today. I think we all know that ain't gonna happen. So thank you, Leah, for writing most of my speech. Well, there's a story behind it because my brother was broke down up on the 490 road, which is about 3 hours away from here, and he called me to come get him. So Leah and my wife sat down at the table and come up with most of it. Family was all up. All my family there cheering me on. Again, thank you for this award. Thank you.
First, I want to start by thanking Jamie for introducing me. It means a lot having him here to introduce me. Being one of a very important coach in my life. It really means a lot. Thank you. I also want to thank all the members of the committee for voting me in. I really appreciate it. It's a huge honor, and I'm very blessed to be in the position that I am in today. I would also like to thank my entire family, mom, my dad, my brothers, grandparents, everybody that always came to support me in all my games all over the state, all over the country. They definitely did not have to travel as far as they did, but I really appreciate that. I especially want to thank my mom and my dad and my 2 brothers for always pushing me to be the best version of myself day in and day out, and I can never thank them enough for that. Allowed me to reach heights that I never would have been able to reach without them in my corner, and I really appreciate it, especially Coach Gavin, for having to travel all over the state, all over the place at a very young age, which I know they probably did not want to do. I also want to thank all my coaches, Mr. Russell, Mr. Gregory, Mr. Rotano, and of course, Dad. They always believed in me from a young age and trusted me all throughout my career, which to me, one of the most important things a coach can do is have that trust in their players, so I do really appreciate that. I also thank, I'd also like to thank all my teammates and friends that I grew up with. Nothing can beat some of the memories that I made with them, and we spent countless times in practice, games, and everything, so that really means a lot to me as well. Because of that trust that I earned, I was able to go and play in college, which most kids don't get to do, so I'm very thankful for that as well. I know a lot of kids don't get to have that opportunity, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without everybody supporting me. I learned a lot about hard work, doing the right thing, putting in time to get where you want to be, and countless other lessons that I'm extremely thankful to have learned from everybody that I looked up to, and I can use those in all aspects. I'm extremely blessed and grateful to be where I am, and I wouldn't be anywhere close to where I am without everybody I mentioned today. So thank you guys very much. I truly appreciate it.
Steals, 46% shooting from field goal, 33% from the three-point line, which is amazing. He was first team PBC his junior and senior year, McDonald's All-Star senior year, free throw champ for the state his junior year, soccer PBC player of the year his senior year, 43 goals, 35 assists, and I don't have his UMFK, the Fort Kent numbers, but a starter up there for the University, Division III, pretty impressive numbers. Dave, I mentioned Dave Gaw. I asked him once if he taught phys ed, and he said, hell no, I'm a lot smarter than that. I taught social studies. So I'm a phys ed teacher, so So I've tried to come up with a vocabulary list. I went to the English department, Central, they helped me. So here's some words that we came up with. Hardworking, and those 2 words. Smart, quiet, unselfish, thoughtful, kind, confident. And then we had some physical words. Strong, quick, athletic, and for you females, handsome. Gail Larson, who Trey played for in high school, saw Bryce play in middle school. And my freshman year, we had a game at Penquist. Gail lived really pretty near the high school. He came and watched me play. I went to Gail's house after the game, and I said, what did you think of Bryce? He said, I think he's a lot of fun to watch. I think I'm going to watch him a lot more. And I bet he's even more fun to coach. And he hit it right on the head. He was fun to coach. Try to tell something personal when we tell the Basketball Hall of Fame people. So I'm going to try to keep this one personal. Bryce was 12 years old, and he was a passenger on side-by-side, and he had an accident. He hurt his right foot. When I say hurt, he destroyed his right foot. The word amputation even came up. He had 7 surgeries. That was in June. His goal was to play soccer in the fall in the 7th grade. He started going through physical therapy at his mom's business, where she worked. Started rehabbing. She dropped him off at his first practice. She watched him run around the field, and he came in dead last, hobbling. Eventually, he was strong enough physically to play. His mental and physical toughness, his determination, his resiliency was an important role model for others and laid the groundwork for him. And when he becomes a student athlete, he'll be even better as a person. He was in high school, college, and now. Hope that's not the person. As a coach, I can tell you that he played on both ends. He played defense and offense. He led by example. He led by his work ethic, practice, and games, not by his mouth. When he did speak, it was usually important. I remember refereeing a soccer game that he was playing in, and he looked at someone and said, just shut up and play. I can remember going to some of his games at UNFK. I couldn't root him nothing more because I was coaching. But I remember watching him play at Hudson and at Unity and thinking how lucky I was to have had him play for me. I'm going to keep it brief. I just want the Gilbert family, his grandparents, his Obie, Gavin, Trey, Jamie, to know how what it was to be here today. It means a lot to me. I'd like to introduce Bryce Gilbert.
Inductee Tom Sear. So Tom is being inducted for his contributions as a coach. He began his coaching journey in 1984, as he said a long time ago, so his memory's a little fuzzy on this. He started out as a middle school activity program and middle school wrestling coach. In 1987, he also began coaching middle school soccer and continued that for 20 years. Before taking over the high school soccer position in the fall of 2007. It was also in 2007 that Tom was able to start the high school wrestling program here. Creating a sports program is no small feat. It takes an immense amount of dedication and passion, both traits that Tom has. Through fundraising and recruiting, he was able to build a program that remains successful today. Starting a program is very difficult, but maintaining it is another task that typically takes many committed individuals. And for a long time, Fire Wrestling had just one committed individual, and that was Tom. Not only was he the high school varsity coach, but he also coached the youth and middle school wrestling teams for many years, and he did that by himself. Tom's passion for the sport kept the program alive and growing. He was always able to recruit athletes to a sport that's not always appealing to teenagers. One of his strengths was bringing in students that were looking for somewhere to go, whether those kids who were not traditionally athletes, or kids that found themselves in trouble and needed an outlet, or what Tom always referred to as disgruntled round ball players who were looking for something else to do in the winter. His team was always a place for all kinds of athletes. Tom became my coach in 2008 when I was in 3rd grade. He always knew how to make wrestling fun. He knew when to push and he knew when to pull back. Now, as the head wrestling coach myself, I'm still being coached by Tom. Whether that's getting advice on fundraising, dealing with parents, coaching children, or being reminded that referees are also human beings and they make mistakes. And he's given me a lot of advice about all of these things. Or if it's just me remembering some of the principles that Tom used to coach with when I was a kid. Control what you can control, perfect the basics, and understand that there's bigger things than sports, and to make sure it's fun. Although Tom is retired from being a head coach, he still finds himself on the wrestling mats every winter. He continues to coach our rec wrestling program, and the kids still love him. He still ends up spending some Saturdays at wrestling tournaments cheering on pirate wrestling and talking to the friends that he's made through the sport. Tom has done much more than coach wrestling, but his name has become synonymous with the sport, and when you think about pirate wrestling, you think about him. So being inducted into the Athletic Hall of Fame for his contributions as a coach, Tom Sear.
Well, thank you all very much. I got a call this summer from Tricia Moulton asking if I would accept this honor, and I said absolutely, and then she wanted to know the beginning, and Zach nailed it rather well. I remember I was officiating wrestling in Maine, and I was in the middle school wrestling racket, and I approached Alan Ward over at the old middle school where the building's not there anymore. The parent is still there. But anyway, he was receptive, and we used to, we found some old wrestling mats that the high school used here back in the 60s. And they were like 12 feet long and 5 feet across. They were all like an old clip, buttoned together. And you had to spread them out, and then there was a 24-foot rubber cover that you put over it and tucked it in. That's what it was. But we did that for about 3 or 4 years. And then what happened was Norm Bridge was coaching middle school soccer, and he decided he didn't want to do it anymore. And he says, it was the day before school started. And he comes up to me and said, hey, I got a job for you. So I took it. And I think that must have been 86 or 87. Kurt, you were on one of my first teams. Is that about right? But the first year was rocky. Numbers weren't great. I was learning how to deal with young people. We had a mutiny. It was Navy playoffs, and I had to, convince some kids to show up for the game. I think that we worked it out. And I think the next, another couple years later, we won the championship your 8th grade year. Brother Cameron, Cameron played. Andrew Folsom. And I did that for like 20 years. And Tommy Gilbert, I'm not sure what years he loved me, but Trey. Ryan White was and my memory is I think we probably won a half a dozen championships. Coming second another half the amount of time. And one thing that our strength was that we had numbers. We always had good turnouts, and I never cut a kid. Anybody who showed up days off, because there were a lot of games that we won, because I just kept sucking. Just kept throwing the young legs in there, and finally, we're in there. We won a lot of games, like, right by now. Won a lot of games late in the game. And, like, Zach was saying, that continued, and, wrestling at the high school level got restarted. There was, the principal at the time was Jim Chasky.